Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Andrew Scaff. He's Mike Werman. Today we're going to recap the NFL's wild card weekend and then update our ongoing restarted betting competition.
As close as ever.
Before talking about the Divisional Round playoffs coming up this coming weekend. Mike, what did you find most interesting from the wild card round? Was it tremendous comebacks? Epic collapses, not being able to make extra points for some reason, close victories, like how about, or like really long returns to like decide to like basically a 14-point swing in a game. What did you find most interesting from the wild card weekend?
There were a lot of interesting things. I think there were 6 games over Super Wild Card weekend. 4 of them were really good games. The 5th was the 49ers Seahawks game, which was entertaining. At least there was high scoring, and then it started out kind of close, and then the 49ers blew away. But the worst game by far was in terms of competitiveness and just funness to watch was the Dallas Tampa game, although there were a couple of interesting things, like the 4 missed extra points in a row by Brett Maher, and he missed them in the exact same way every time. Like they were all like pushed wide right, and it was like, is he trying to
kind of over the top of the post too? So it was like you couldn't quite tell if you just got
like it just went straight, like there was no bend on it. Like it was like usually when a kicker misses a bunch of kicks, it's because after he missed the first one, he overcorrects and does he shanks, he slices it the first one, then he hooks it the second
pulls
one,
the other one,
like he's trying to
nothing was close to being blocked, nothing was like tipped, or it seemed like the holds were all okay, so it's really strange to see that.
He was just like kicking it like he wasn't looking at the goalpost, like he was kicking it just towards the corner of the end zone for some reason. And it was strange. But that game, like the Tampa Bay offense just looked horribly out of sync. Some of the defensive plays were just had Cowboys receivers so wide open. It was just it wasn't a very fun game to watch. But I think the most interesting, at least to me, the most interesting, finally getting around to it, the most interesting part of last week was, I think, the AFC contenders not doing very well and barely hanging on against what we would think to be as inferior opponents. And not that Miami and Baltimore are bad teams, but with their quarterback situation, they were not the teams that they could be. And so like Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins, even though they had delay of game penalties like every other play, they were only lost by 3 points, and they were ahead much of the game. And the Ravens Bengals game, like you said, it was a miraculous touchdown return that sealed it for the Bengals. And still, the Ravens actually had a chance to, win at the end if they hadn't been so horrible at clock management. Both those teams, the losing teams, had really strange clock issues. For the Dolphins, it was the whole game. For the Ravens, it was right at the end where they had timeouts but didn't feel like using them. It was like that. You remember several weeks ago we made fun of Jeff Saturday for not using his timeouts.
Right.
It was just like that. It was a Jeff Saturday type of situation. I was surprised at kind of how bad the Bengals and the Bills looked, even though they both won. But I was thinking they would. How about you? What was your assessment of the week in general?
I mean, I fully agree with you about the Bengals and Bills not looking as strong as kind of expected them to, especially knowing that they're going to be facing each other. Maybe they're looking forward to that game rather than playing for the current game they had. I don't know. It was really odd to see that them underperform. I mean, they still won, so I think they were still the better team, even when they're underperforming. But
Yeah,
I mean,
at least with the quarterback situations the other teams had, like had Lamar Jackson played, had a healthy Tua played, they would have lost both of those games. Both teams, I think.
yeah, they did not look like they were the teams that everybody knows them to be, I think, at this point. So the Bills have been kind of not playing that great for a while, I think, but
Yeah,
they just didn't look like the contender that you really expect.
Yeah, like Josh Allen lately, it's either a 60-yard touchdown pass or a bunch of incompletions and a fumble or an interception. It's kind of all or nothing, their drives lately. It was kind of that way in the last game against the Patriots. They had two kickoff return touchdowns and then like a couple of big bombs from Allen, and then that was basically it for the scoring. They didn't have any really, maybe they had one sustained drive all game. It was, yeah, it's a little concerning if I were a Bills fan, but again, like you said, maybe they're just concerned about, they think, well, we're one of the three top teams in the AFC. These teams have seemed to have separated themselves, the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Bills, and we have to play. And if you're the Bengals, we're going to have to play the other two teams to win. And if you're the Bills, you say, well, we're going to have to play the other two teams to win. So why don't we just save our energy for those games? And maybe that's what happened.
Could be it. But now they're going to play each other, and it's going to be an emotional game. So who knows what's going to happen with that, or what they're going to bring into that game. You don't really know until we.
Yeah, I could see both teams having emotion on their side because of Hamlin for Buffalo, but I think Cincinnati's going to be angry that the game is not in Cincinnati because they didn't
or at least at a neutral location, because that seems like that. If the league's making an AFC Championship game in a neutral site, should Buffalo play Kansas City? Why is this game not? I don't know. That's what I have never really understood why they ruled that way. It seems like this should be.
They said they ruled that way because both teams had played the same number of games, and since the Bills won more of their games than the Bengals, they got one. But
that's still
the game that they didn't play was the game against each other, and
they were supposed to have them.
Yeah, and the Bills were the team that didn't want to play that game that night, or apparently the next day or the next day. So I think it's odd that they were rewarded in any way for essentially forfeiting the game. And
right.
I know something horrible happened to them, but like, it's like if I were the Bengals, I would be upset like that. So I think the Bengals also were stuck in that coin flip situation with the Ravens anyway. So like they had both of their games, their playoff games, they could be upset about. They ended up winning the game, so they didn't need the coin flip. But
right,
yeah, it was just an odd situation, I think, and that the Bills benefited. I guess you could say they didn't benefit in that they didn't get home field advantage, even though they beat the Chiefs. But they could have also been the number 3 seed, and the worst the Chiefs could have been was number 2.
Yeah.
And even the Bengals could have challenged for the 1 seed going into the last week if the Chiefs had lost. So yeah.
But some of that ends up being a moot point, and maybe the AFC Championship location may be a moot point. Also, just depending on what happens in this game.
Yeah, depending on which Buffalo team shows up and which Cincinnati team shows up.
And I think we'll talk more about that.
Both of their good teams show up. So
right. But yeah, I thought maybe the most interesting game may have been the tale of the two different halves of the Chargers Jacksonville game. Because Jacksonville was objectively bad in the first half, and then
4 interceptions by Lawrence. Were they all in the first quarter? Or at least 3 in the first quarter.
Yeah, that could be. But yeah, it was pretty poor performance first half.
Yeah, it was
interception, punt, interception. interception. The last one was in the second quarter, halfway.
The last one was the second quarter. Okay. It was with 7 minutes left in the game too. So it was within the first 22 minutes ish, 23 minutes. It had 4 interceptions. But that half was crazy how badly they played. But like I think I was thinking going into that when that half was happening, it's like, oh yeah, Brandon Staley, his job was maybe on the line. And I was thinking, well, now he's certainly going to keep his job given how well they're playing against Jackson. But then
the second half.
Yeah, the way they lost, they couldn't do anything in the second half.
Yeah, down 27 points to come all the way back. Yeah, 31-30 victory for Jacksonville. It seems like Staley is keeping his job though, but the offensive coordinator has been fired from the Chargers.
Okay.
No,
Lombardi.
The offensive coordinator, for the Chargers was fired.
Yeah,
seems as though Staley has kept his job.
I'm a little surprised Staley has kept his job, but I don't know. He did get the team to the playoffs this year. You could say, well, they only lost by 1 point on the road. if like it had been a valiant comeback and they just fell short.
But it was to a team with a worse record than them though too, right? So it's just because they were in a division that was less difficult to win than the AFC.
Yeah. Well, I guess it was also a team that had beaten them already, but handily.
True.
So like this is their second loss to the Jaguars. Yeah, I was surprised that I guess. Well, I don't know. Because I think maybe this is like one of those things where the Chargers may have like inquired about Sean Payton or somebody like that. He's the Harbaugh. But like Harbaugh, it seems like he says he's gonna stay at Michigan now.
Yeah.
And
is AD said he's staying there, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I would see this would be. You think this might be a good situation for Sean Payton because you get a young, good quarterback and possibly good offense, but like he's also in the same division as Mahomes, and that's it's easier to win. Like I think he had been interviewed with Houston actually, and then it seems like perhaps that's where he might end up. Who knows? Because he's from Texas, and it seems like Mike McCarthy's going to keep his job after the Cowboys beat the Buccaneers so handily. So yeah, I'm a little surprised that Staley is keeping his job, but I'm not. They did have a winning record. They did go to the playoffs. They improved from last year. So like objectively, it seems okay, but like you would think emotionally, given the fact that their last game was such a their last game against the Broncos was such a debacle where Mike Williams was hurt and their starters played and didn't do very well. And then the next game when they got this huge lead, and basically they got the huge lead just handed to them. They didn't have any. I don't think they had any long drives. What was their longest touchdown drive? Let's see. They had a touchdown drive of 18 yards, a field goal drive of 57, touchdown drive of 16 yards. They had a 62-yard touchdown drive.
Yeah.
So one.
They had a 4-play 1-yard field goal.
Yeah, that 4-play 1-yard field goal was bad, and they missed a 3 and out. Their
second longest drive ended in a missed field goal. So 58-yard drive. Yeah, nothing really sustained though.
Would you have kept Staley?
I think so. I think probably just write it off as just not a great year, but I don't know. He might be on a short lease next year though.
Yeah, probably.
The Chargers kind of have a history of some not being able to hold on to leads and stuff like that, kind of in the past anyway. But
they have a kind of pre-Mahomes Chiefs sort of playoff history.
Yeah,
I think that was, and they've blown things, blown leads, just have been favorites and lost and things like that. So yeah, this was maybe just part of that pattern.
There was an interesting quote from a local barbecue restaurant in Kansas City, which I found amusing. Here's the quote. See if you can tell me which barbecue restaurant you think made this quote. The Chargers are the St. Louis barbecue of football teams.
Ooh, okay. Let's see.
That's like a double roast there, though.
I don't think so. Yeah, St. Louis barbecue. Yeah, I guess St. Louis is known for their ribs, St. Louis style ribs, right? But it's not really. Yeah, it's not really a barbecue hotbed. At least not compared to Kansas City. I don't think it's one of the old guard. I don't think it's going to be Bryant's or Gates. I don't think it's one of them because I don't think they're bothered to talk about.
You think they'd be active on social media?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think some new person bought Bryant's though.
It's true.
So that could be, but I don't think that's not their style. It's not going to be Jack Stack either. That's the kind of fancier upper class one. It's gonna be one of the newer. It's gonna be like either
like a Q39 or a
Q39. I was thinking, or well, not Oklahoma Joe's anymore. Joe's Kansas City. Yeah, it's not gonna be like LC's or one of those old places. I don't think it's gonna. Maybe it's Joe's Kansas City.
It is one of the ones you ruled out on the first try.
Is it Gates?
It was Bryant. It was Bryant's.
But Bryant's is it's the new ownership.
The new ownership. You weren't expecting it. Yeah,
it's the new ownership.
I just thought the line was funny. So
yeah, the new ownership. Then because I had read somewhere that somebody else had bought it, and I guess they're brasher than
their predecessors.
Old than Arthur Bryant himself would have been. Do you know when Arthur Bryant died?
I don't. No clue. Yeah, he was a cook at Gates, right? Wasn't that the origin story of Bryant's?
Bryant and Ollie Gates, they had both learned how to do barbecue from an older guy named Henry Perry, who had settled in Kansas City like in the first decade of the 20th century, like 1905 or something.
The aughts.
And the aughts, yeah. And then I think both Bryant and Gates at one point worked for Henry Perry.
Okay.
And let's see, I'm looking it up. So Henry Perry had his barbecue called Perry's Barbecue at 17th and Lydia, which is near 18th and Vine District.
Yep.
He died in 1940, but so after his death, Charlie Bryant took over the business and sold it to his brother Arthur, who made his sauce a little sweeter, and he moved it to 1727 Brooklyn.
Yeah, where it still is today.
Yeah, and then another guy worked for Perry, helped George Gates found Gates Barbecue. So like the Gates family also was part of that Henry Perry family tree.
Okay.
So Gates Barbecue started in 1946. Bryant's was started in, I guess it was just taken over after his death, like 1940 or something.
Okay.
Yeah, 1940 Charlie took it over, and Arthur took over in 1946 as well. So both of them started kind of in 1946 as Arthur became the boss in 46. So almost 80 years. No. But I'm surprised. Yeah. I'm surprised that the new management is so and picking fights for no reason.
Yeah. Funny.
Maybe they're just trying to get their name out again, I guess.
Maybe. should we go through our picks from last week's games?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. We each did fairly well. Do we maybe you want to like as usual? Do you want to talk about our losses
Sure.
first? Go with your loss first, because we haven't talked about that game yet. Then we can talk about my loss.
Yeah. Yeah, so the one loss that I had was in the Giants Vikings game. I'd taken the under at 48.5 points. But it seems like all the games were pretty high scoring. Only one landed on the under, and it wasn't this one. Giants ended up playing pretty well, upsetting, I guess, technically.
Yeah,
The Vikings still.
well, yeah, the Vikings were
been all
here
that
by
great.
3,
Yeah.
so I guess it's an upset according to the bettors. It's an
Right.
upset according to record and the seeding. But I like in Minnesota, I guess had won the first matchup, but also only by a field goal, very long field goal at the end of regulation. So yeah, it wasn't much of an upset. I think as a 13-win team, the Vikings inspired a very little amount of confidence. I that had won at least 12 games to have a negative point differential. So even even before the 12, even the 12-4 rather than 13-4, they've all been positive point differential. So it's
Like
not
fairly
surprising.
significantly positive too, not just positive, but
And the game ended, I think, on the most Kirk Cousins of all plays. That short fourth and 8, and then he threw like a 3-yard pass to TJ Hawkinson, and he failed to get a first down. And that's how the game ended.
it's one of those maddening types of plays for football fans to watch happen in front of them.
Yeah, especially if you're a Vikings fan. Yeah, like that's. And like they didn't throw much at all to Justin Jefferson in the second half. But yeah, it was. But the Giants looked pretty good. Jones looked good as quarterback. Saquon had some really big runs. Seems like Dable's really turned the team around this year.
Yes,
And he
ended up, he had 55 points, 31-24. So yeah, about a touchdown over.
That touchdown over. Yeah, it could have been. Yeah, would have had to remain 24-24 tie to.
Yeah,
that wasn't going to happen.
Can't happen. Can't happen in the playoffs.
No.
So I'd lost relatively early in that game, I guess, right?
Yeah, they didn't end up scoring that much in the fourth quarter. I think it was only.
It was about halfway through the fourth quarter when that last touchdown.
Yeah, 10 points were scored in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Most of the it was 17-14 at half. So and then 31 points. It was interesting. 31 points were scored in the first half. 24 points were scored in the second half. The game ended up 31-24 as well. Maybe that's not interesting, but I find it interesting.
Think that was predetermined? Is that the plan was?
Yeah, that was the plan. Yeah, so Daniel Jones had a good, he threw for 300 yards, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he ran for 78 yards, leading his team. No rushing touchdowns. Barkley had only 9 carries, which was, I thought he had gotten the ball a lot more. I guess he had 5 receptions, so I was thinking he was much more integral, but he had a lot of pass catches. So I think the Giants have an interesting conundrum for next year because both Jones and Barkley are due to be free agents. Do you try to keep both of those guys around, or do you just try to find, because running backs are, he's a really great running back, but he's still a running back, which is seen as one of the more fungible positions. And Jones is a quarterback who's starting to take off, maybe a little bit of a slow developer,
but seems to be competent enough. He's still playing well enough, at least anyway. So Yeah, it's gonna be tough to try to keep both of them, I would think. But
Yeah, which one? If you had to keep, if you could keep one of those two, which one would you keep?
I think you have to keep your quarterback if he's already there. So, and yeah, running backs are relatively interchangeable, so you might have
Yeah,
to.
Barkley's really good. I think he probably has another 2 or 3 years in it, but he probably wants like a 4 or 5 year contract,
Yeah,
and who knows if he's going to last that long. He's been injured quite a bit over his career. This year he was healthy again, so he's a risk. But if he's healthy, he's wonderful. But
well,
um,
you may get into a situation here with the league not valuing running backs as much as they have in the past. You may be able to franchise tag a running back to an okay salary without going
yeah,
long term deal.
the one back who kind of screws that is it's like the isn't the is it's the franchise
Three average of three, maybe
top 10 salaries,
top three or top five.
top five. It's something like
So
that.
it's a pretty small number, I think, for the.
Mhm. But like Christian McCaffrey's huge contract is skews would skew it, but still it's probably fairly. It's probably the lowest relatively that it's been in years for.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's really what I'm, thinking about from that perspective is that in the past it used to be that running backs were one of the higher paid positions, and now they may have slipped back a bit relative to some of the other positions.
Yeah, I was looking at Nick Chubb. He signed a 3 year, um, 36+ million contract. So I
Yeah.
guess
So
he's
is it the average value
yeah.
that
I'm not exactly
for that
sure how.
it has to be for that one season though, right? It's just gonna be that season's average, right?
Yeah, so this year his cap hit was only 5.2 million. Next year it's going to be 14.8, then 16.2 for Nick Chubb. So I would guess probably something like that would be what Barkley would go for.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, but some of those teams have a lot of cash and they might want to running back.
Yeah. But it's I think it's a strategy that you wouldn't have even thought about several years ago, but maybe now it's becoming closer to a possible strategy anyway, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I just looked at top running back salaries. It's Christian McCaffrey's number one at just over 16 million a year.
Yeah.
Um, Alvin Kamara is 15 million. Zeke Elliott 15 million. Dalvin Cook 12.6. Derrick Henry 12.5. Chubb 12.2. So it looks like 12 million is a lot of is what you could get a good running back for. Barkley is 8 million, but he was a
Looks like the average of the top five would be around 11 million
for this year.
for 2023 salary.
2023. I was looking at the average. Let's look at 2023. Yeah. Ooh, 2023 salaries. Aaron Jones goes up to 20 million for his cap number. Then Zeke
Yeah.
Elliott is 16, Derrick Henry 16, Kamara 16, Nick Chubb almost 15 cap number. I don't know if it's based on cap number or based on something else.
I think it's probably on the base. Maybe it's on base, or is it on base salary, or is it just on yeah, if it's on cap money, then maybe it is. Yeah, Aaron Jones 20 million. Oh yeah. Okay, so that was just on base salary that I had it on was like 11 million.
Okay, I'm looking at it right now on 2023 projected franchise transition tender. So if you're going to franchise a quarterback, which I guess they could for Jones if he's eligible, that would be
Yeah.
30. That would be 32 million. And running back would be 10.1 million.
Okay.
So not that high for. Um, but yeah, of all of this, um, Yeah, of all of the position groups, running back is the lowest now, other than special teams players.
Tight end and special team, I guess, are lower.
Yeah.
For 2022.
Yeah, in 2023, tight end's going to be higher than running back.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's the tight end for 2023?
11.356 million.
It was 10.8. Last year's running back was 12.5.
This year's running back's 10.1. So it's gone down 2 million.
Yeah. So it actually does become a strategy. So if let's say Barkley wants 15 million a year for 3 years, you could franchise tag him for 1 year, see if he holds up. As a team, it's a strategy you could use. It doesn't mean he's going to be happy with that, but
it's like maybe even like say like 5 years, 50 million, and you give him 5 years, and then because 10 million is not like 5 years from now, maybe 10 million won't be that much on the cap, and I don't know. It's one of those things. Yeah, like you said, you got to take advantage of the inefficiencies of the marketplace, and it seems like running backs were once overvalued. Maybe now they're undervalued. Who knows?
Mm.
Move on to my.
How was your first pick?
My first pick
your first
that I lost.
Pick. Your first
my lone loss was the Buccaneers Cowboys game. The Bucks were 2.5-point underdogs. I took them at +2.5, and the Cowboys rolled 31-14, despite missing 4 extra points, and despite just not having really to play that hard. I think they could. It was an easy game. They were comfortably ahead. Really, once Brady threw that interception in the end zone, the Buccaneers didn't challenge again until late. It was like for 3 quarters plus, it was easy sailing, and Dak Prescott looked great. Although his receivers were sometimes 15 yards, had a 15-yard kind of radius around them where nobody was.
Yeah.
And like that last CD Lamb touchdown. Yeah, it was a very good game, I think, for the Cowboys, and one that definitely puts McCarthy off the hot seat. I could see if they had lost to the Buccaneers, that might have been given away to win.
Yeah, if they would have had the same collapse that the Chargers had, do you think McCarthy would already be out of job?
Possibly, because I don't know, Jerry Jones, I'm sure he's probably gotten in some ways more patient as he's gotten older, but now I think he's probably going to get more impatient because he's getting very much older, and he probably wants another Super Bowl before he passes away. And I don't think the Cowboys have even been in the NFC Championship game since '95, something like that. So it's
something like that.
They
said this is their first road playoff win in 30 years, which I thought was pretty surprising.
Yeah, they seem like it's like the old Chiefs when Andy Reid was coaching them, even before Mahomes. Like they won when they beat the Texans on the road, when they shut the Texans out like in 2014 or something, 2015.
Yeah,
and that was their first road playoff victory in since like they beat the Houston Oilers, I think, in one of the Joe Montana seasons.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time.
So when you watch this game, did you watch the ESPN broadcast, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, or did you watch the ESPN2 Manning cast?
I didn't watch the Manning cast. I watched the standard one. Maybe the Manning cast would have been better, but I
never actually watched the Manning cast version. I caught little bits of it, but I actually watched this one. It is difficult to sit through.
How much do they even pay attention?
It's like having
is it much about the game at all?
3 color commentators and no play-by-play guy. So they talk about stuff constantly, but usually they're just sort of talking through what happened afterwards So if you're just listening to it and not watching the game, you have no clue what's happening in the game at all. Like there were touchdowns that were scored that they didn't even really mention.
So it's
Like
like,
actually happening anyway. I thought it was kind of it was entertaining to watch, but it was if you're doing something else and like relying on the announcer, like
mhm.
verbally actually talking about the game, you're not getting it on that broadcast.
It sounds sort of like if we were like it's like us, but there's a football game in the background that we're ignoring. Is that
Yeah, well, I mean, they're watching the game, so
okay?
they know
They're
what's happening,
they're commenting on the game.
but they're
Do
sort
they
of
have,
commenting around it, but not necessarily talking about individual plays. Um, even like big plays. I think they may just react to plays. They may, do something, but they don't necessarily like say what's actually happening. So nobody's like calling the game. It's just them talking over a football game that's happening.
Interesting. I haven't had I've on the ESPN games. I've just had to watch streaming. I have ESPN Plus, so like they don't have all those options usually because I don't actually have
Oh,
cable.
okay.
Um, and they have actually a lot of those games aren't on ESPN Plus either. So
Yeah.
I've I've if I watch the game, it's on my phone because I have the thing on my phone. But or I go to bar or something, and that's always going to have the regular
The regular audio.
announcers. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just
Yeah. So
curious what you did
yeah.
with that.
Do you think that? Oh, one last note from the uh, Buccaneers Cowboys. Is this Tom Brady's last game total? Last game as a Buccaneer? Both or neither? I guess.
I think he probably comes back. I don't think he'll be with Tampa. I think he's probably fed up with how they played this year. I think he's going to try something else. It sounds like he's being recruited pretty heavily from a few different teams. So we'll to see which way it goes.
Yeah, it seems like Las Vegas maybe is the
Raiders have been talking to him apparently.
probably Miami again because of Tua's health.
Hmm.
I think he'd like to throw it to Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, but also Devontae Adams is pretty good as well.
Yeah. There's
Um,
probably going to be some kind of talk about New England, a reunion there, but I don't know that he wants or either of them want that.
yeah, I don't know either.
Belichick maybe not want that either. I don't know. Well,
If I were a Patriots fan, I'd want it because I don't think Mac Jones is the quarterback of the future.
yeah.
I don't. I guess maybe it's like it seemed like at the beginning of the season, maybe you thought, especially once Lance got hurt, maybe it was San Francisco. But now, I think no matter what happens, we had talked about this before. What happens if Brock Purdy does well? I think
Seems like we're maybe seeing that actually.
yeah,
So
I think now really no matter what happens in the playoffs, I think Purdy's going to be the starter next year. I don't think Lance is. I think if anything, they're going to try to get rid of him, which is really really surprising given what happened going into the season. So I don't know. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
do you think
crazy how
anyone
fast things can
predicted that?
change.
You think anyone predicted that Purdy would be leading the team into a deep playoff run when they selected him as Mr. Irrelevant in the 2023 draft?
No, I think if people thought, well, Purdy's going to play a lot this year, I think people would have thought, oh, that's something bad happened,
It's a
and our
disaster
season collapsed.
season.
Because we've had because Lance got hurt, Garoppolo got hurt. Probably if those two quarterbacks got hurt, probably
Maybe the whole defense is gone.
yeah. Kittle's out for the season.
Yeah.
Trent Williams went down, something like
Maybe
that.
there's been like a horrible like plane crash or something, and that would be like you would think of that before this scenario would be the one that would play out, right?
Yeah, I think there's no. Yeah, it's really because they have had backup quarterbacks do fairly well for San Francisco, but it's been like C.J. Beathard and people like that uh, kind of helped, like kind of hung in the games with the
Yeah.
49ers. But the rest of the roster right now is so good. I think a lot of people could be the quarterback, but I think you can't take away from what Purdy has done. But I think it's just a very, very good situation for him to be in.
Right. But they didn't look that great when Lance or really even Garoppolo was quarterbacking the team, which is kind of what's surprising about it. It's not that that a backup quarterback has succeeded, is that they may actually be better with their third string guy than they were with their first two string guys.
Part of that also is
a little surprising. That still doesn't mean that Purdy's actually that great of a quarterback, but the situation is really good, and he's at least a game manager enough and not creating mistakes himself that caused the team to suffer.
Yeah, I think part of that is just that the team got healthy as time went on, healthier. Like Kittle came back from injury, Deebo Samuel now is back. And also
a lot of their best play was without Samuel. Like
McCaffrey. I guess I think he takes him to another level even. But like McCaffrey came in the middle of the season, and they've been really good since McCaffrey has been there. So I think that's also something.
Except for his first game, they didn't win that first game.
No, they got blown out by the Chiefs that game, but
they haven't lost since then, have they?
No, they haven't lost since then.
So yeah,
you could say, well, they haven't really played any great teams since then. They've played two playoff teams, the Seahawks and Buccaneers, both of whom got blown out in their first round games. So they haven't had the level of competition maybe that
they played Seattle fairly recently too at the end of the season. So
but I think a lot of that just the state of the NFC, and if you aren't playing any of the good AFC teams, your schedule is going to be pretty weak. So like the 49ers did end up playing the Chiefs and the Chargers. They barely beat the Chargers, and they got blown out by the Chiefs. They lost to the Broncos, and they barely beat the Raiders. So like I think that in some ways that shows how good the AFC is compared to the NFC. It's maybe you have some anomalies like the Vikings somehow beating the Bills, but it seems like most of the AFC teams were. I think on the whole, like the record between the conferences was even, but I think the top teams of the AFC are very formidable compared to the NFC.
Well, we both made bets inside that San Francisco Seattle game. Should we talk about those real quick?
Sure. Yeah, I picked the 49ers -10, and they won 41-23. So that was a comfortable win. It was a little close like first half, but then the second half just opened up for the 49ers, and they coasted. What was your bet in that game?
I took the over in that game because the over-under number was pretty low, 43.
Yeah, it seems way too low.
Yeah, they blew that away, and into the final score ended at 64 points. So
yeah, the 49ers
very comfortably past that.
Had 41 by themselves, so a field goal from the Seahawks would have put it over.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, how far into the game was it when they actually hit the over? Was it in the third quarter or was it the fourth quarter?
Let's see.
Was the first score of the fourth quarter.
First score of the fourth quarter.
58 seconds into the fourth quarter. So there it was under only until just the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Okay.
From your standard quote of the
it's not over, or it's always under until it's over. That's
until it's over. Yes.
Always under until it's over. And that was the
and yeah, a lot of the games in the over this week. So
yeah, there was a lot of scoring in the fourth quarter, but yeah, the 49ers handled it pretty easily. I don't think there were any. I think we had a bet or a potential bet that there was going to be a safety in one of the games.
I didn't even think about it. Was there one?
I don't think there were any safeties.
I didn't see any.
So I think your over 1/2 safeties didn't turn out. But what let's say I gave you 2-1 odds
this week.
Yeah, so it's like plus plus 200
On a
over one
safety?
half. Yeah, one safety. Would you take it
In the division round? Yeah, I'd take
in the
it.
division?
Double or nothing? Yeah.
Yeah,
Would you not?
I'd still go the under probably, but I think safeties happen more when they're like bad teams playing,
True.
and it's possible that a safety would happen with good teams, but usually I think it's mostly bad inept offenses at least. I don't, and in the AFC, all the offenses are very good. Even in the NFC, they're all pretty good offenses. I think the Giants might be the weakest of those offenses, but they're not bad. So,
Yeah.
like the old saying was defenses in championships, but I think there are more teams with good offenses than there are with good defense.
I think at this point, yeah.
Like the defense, I think you could say who has a good. I guess you could say the Eagles and the 49ers.
I think the Chiefs are pretty decent, but they don't usually show up like that anyway. But
I think you could say the Cowboys maybe, but I think they're more flashy than they are.
yeah.
The Bills are kind of the same way. They had a really good defense, but now they're injured a lot.
Yeah,
The Bengals might be the best defense left.
Maybe. I think Jacksonville's defense is okay, but they've been giving up a lot of points too. But they play a little rough for what we saw, at least in the first game against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
With Cisco not getting penalized, but getting fined for dirty hits.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see I'm looking at the team statistics right now. In terms of yardage per game, the 49ers and the Eagles are number 1 and 2 with about 300 yards per game. The Bills are the next team in the playoffs. Then the Buccaneers, Ravens, then the Chiefs, actually. 2 yards ahead of the Cowboys. But yeah, it's like most of those teams in the upper echelon on defense are not, in terms of yardage defense, are not in the playoffs. Ones the Chiefs are middle of the pack in points per game. They've averaged 21.7.
What were the teams that were at the top there?
The 49ers have allowed only 16.3, so they're number 1. The Bills 17.9 at number 2. Then you have the Ravens, the Jets. Then it's the Cowboys at 20.1, and the Bengals also at 20.1. Then the Eagles at 20.2. Jaguars at 20.6. Chiefs at 21.7. Giants at I think that's the last team. So I guess the Giants rank last in points per game, but they're only 10th of a point lower or higher than the Chiefs. I guess but it's they're within a few points per game.
The pack is pretty close together anyway. It's not somebody's like far and away the best team, and then
the Giants also are the lowest offensive scoring team, 21.5 points per game. The Ravens, actually, never mind. The Ravens were lower, but the Giants are the lowest left.
The lowest remaining, yeah.
Yeah, the Chiefs are number 1 overall, Bills 2, Eagles 3, Cowboys 4. This is the Lions. And then it's San Francisco is 6, Bengals 7. Then Vikings and Seahawks, both playoff teams that have lost, and then Jaguars after that. So, I think scoring defense does not correlate nearly as much as scoring offense in the league anymore.
Yeah, I think really what the modern NFL has become is that it's as much offense as you can get and a competent enough defense to get at least a few stops when it matters. It's not the old defense wins championships strategy, at least anymore. I don't think.
No, but I guess you want to have a good defense to slow down in the offensive. You want relatively a team that can slow the other team down. I don't think it. Yeah, I think you just need to balance somehow, have a better offense plus better defense than the other team.
Yeah,
and it seems like more and more teams are going on the offensive.
Yeah, well, it's more protected now too from the way it's officiated and the way the game's called, really. So, yeah.
How about your first victory of the?
So the second victory.
Second victory, yeah.
Wins in the 49ers Seahawks game. The last one, because we're just talking about it too, the Chargers Jags game. I had Jacksonville +1 in that game, and it took basically the entire game to bring that one back to the win column for me. That was a deep comeback to win for Jacksonville to win by 1, which covered the spread by 2.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, like, when we bet a couple of times this week, we didn't get the best number that we could if we had waited. But when we recorded this, I think it was Tuesday, and then the lines changed. But yeah, I think it ended up being Chargers like 2.5 point favorite, something like that, even. So
I think it was -2 was the close on ESPN, at least anyway. But
-2.
it was even when we were looking at it, and then when we started to record, I think
that's right.
Last week it moved to -1.
-1
for the Chargers. So
yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I thought Jacksonville might have a good shot at winning, but I did not expect the game to go the way it went. I'm not surprised at the final score. If he had said it was 31-30, that wouldn't have surprised me at all. But just the way it happened was.
But if you heard that they were down 27-0, you would have assumed that Jacksonville would not have come back, though.
Yeah, I guess you could say, well, Chargers are going to Charger, but I don't know.
I think I did say something to that effect in a text message to you when they looked at that far. There's still time.
So if I had just said one team was up 27-0 and then lost 31-30, which one would you have said more likely was the one that was going to lose, that was up big then lost?
I think it'd have to be the Chargers, right? I mean, or the Giants, maybe, because the Vikings have had those crazy comebacks during the season, but I don't think any of the other teams would get behind by that much.
Yeah, I could see. You might have said like somebody like the Dolphins, like somehow they got way ahead of the Bills, and then the Bills came back.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they can get behind by that much as well.
Yeah, they got behind the Dolphins got behind quite a bit to the Bills, but then they hung up. So that was my second win, was the Dolphins +9.5. It ended up being +14 at the end of the week, because when I made my bet, there were whispers that Tua was going to play.
Yes,
and then those went away pretty quickly. And it became a big Buffalo number, but even though I didn't get the best number, I still thought that the Bills weren't going to win by a lot, and because the Dolphins were going to keep it close, I didn't imagine them keeping it this. But given the way the Bills have been playing, it's not surprising. And like what we said, if the Bills play like that against the Bengals, they're going to lose. But I guess if the Bengals play like they did against the Ravens, I don't know if they beat the Bills, even if the Bills play like that. So it's hard to say. I'd rather have those teams. I think those teams are evenly matched, but I'd rather have them play well against each other than poorly. Although maybe you'd say, well, if from the Chiefs' perspective, maybe you want them to play poorly because you think they're going to play poorly the next week, but that doesn't usually seem to work out.
So as a Chiefs fan, what do you want to see from this game? Do you want that just knockdown, drag out, just like totally draining effort from somebody, and then maybe the weaker team ends up winning. Is that the best scenario?
I think so. I think it's a little bit like what happened in the divisional round last year when the Chiefs and Bills played that um, fantastic, trading knockout blows kind of game,
Yeah.
42-36 Kansas City. The win, people thought, well, the winner of this game is going to go to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl. But I think the Chiefs were a little tired and let down after the game, and they were able to kind of hold and have a good half against Cincinnati, but then they couldn't sustain it and just kind of fell apart. And I wonder if that's a little bit of was a hangover from the kind of amazing, miraculous comeback. And
Yeah.
so
13 seconds.
maybe that's what we want, but I guess I would rather have the Bengals win just so the game would be in Kansas City.
Yeah. You want that streak to continue of the Chiefs hosting AFC Championship games, correct?
I guess technically the Chiefs would be the home team in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So you could call that hosting.
Yeah.
And maybe you can say, well, Mahomes will play better in a dome. But I think Allen would play better in a dome too. So it doesn't seem like, I don't know. I think the home crowd. I like the home crowd.
Right.
And yeah, it seems like
City
also
fans will travel well. It's not.
Yeah, I think Buffalo fans probably too, though. It's
Yeah.
And it seems to me if the Chiefs were 1 seed, they should have given a majority of the tickets.
Who knows how they'll handle that?
But I don't know. I don't think that was the play.
I saw the tickets were going on sale, I think, today, maybe for the game in Atlanta, should it be played there. So that's already like happening now. So I don't know what the breakdown is though of like the availability of the tickets.
I'd much rather play in Atlanta than play in Buffalo though. So
that's true.
Yeah. So speaking of next week's games, do we want to talk about next week's games and talk about our bets on them?
Let's do it.
We're doing a little different this week because there are only 4 games. We're going to make a bet on each one of us is going to make a bet on each game, and
spread or over under,
spread or over under, and we will alternate who gets the first pick in those games. And
we decided we're going to handle them in the order of the games occurred or will occur.
In the order of the games occurring. So on Saturday, the Chiefs play first against the Jaguars at 4:30.
And you have won the toss, so you will get to select your first bet first.
So the spread is 8.5 points. Chiefs are favored, and the over under is 53. The ones I like most. I like the Chiefs minus 8.5. I feel like a homer, but the Chiefs beat the Jaguars by 10 at home in the regular season. That was a game where they had a lot of turnovers. A late interception by Mahomes, 2 fumbles, one by Forts and one by Pacheco, I think. There was also a kind of mishandled onside kick where the Jaguars recovered it. So they had a lot of turnovers. They still coasted that game. They were up 27-10 in the fourth quarter. I think Mahomes doesn't make that interception in the playoffs. So I think also probably the Jaguars are happy to be where they are because they beat the Chargers. I think a lot of people didn't think that would happen. It was a big comeback. They're elated, but I think they were on a high. But I think the Chiefs were on a bye. They were rested. Last time when the Chiefs played the Jaguars, the Chiefs were actually coming off that Monday night game against the Titans where they were really beat up the whole time. They had one fewer day of rest than the Jaguars did, and they still handily beat the Jaguars. So I think with 2 weeks of, I'm talking myself in this, I think with 2 weeks of rest, Andy Reid on the bye, and at Arrowhead again, the Chiefs have already beaten the Jaguars. I think minus 8.5 Chiefs is my play, and I think it's a solid play. I think the bet started out the spread started out at Chiefs minus 10 actually, and it's gone down.
Ooh.
8.5. So I'm getting a good number, I think.
Well, the Chiefs, like in the regular season at least, have had difficulties covering spreads, but most of those games don't really matter all that much, especially to Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
This is gentlemanly finishes, but now it's playoff time. There's no chances to be taken, is what you would hope the mentality is going into these games. Now, I think they seem pretty motivated to try to get back to the Super Bowl, and you don't want to play a close game if you don't have to play a close game. Isn't that?
Yeah.
What you hope that they're going to do, at least anyway. So you took Chiefs minus 8.5. I don't want to do the same bet as you. I don't know that do we talk about, can we do that? I don't think we're going to. Let's just not do that.
We might have to probably next round, because I think the way we're gonna do is we're gonna make a spread bet and over under bet on each game.
Okay.
So we'll probably
may have some overlapping bets that time.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should just go against each other. But
maybe for this one, then we'll just make sure we don't take the same bet.
Okay.
We'll take opposite bet or take the bet on the other option.
Yeah.
So I think in this one, I think that over under number is pretty high. Last week there were a lot of overs hit. 5 of the 6 games, I believe, hit the over. I think
the Dallas Buccaneers game would have hit the over had there not been 4 missed extra points.
Even one more made extra point hits the over. Yes. Yeah, because it took them to the 6th touchdown of the game before an extra point was successful.
Yeah, because the Buccaneers' first touchdown, they went for 2 and they didn't make it.
So yeah, I think I'm going to take the under in this game. I think maybe the Chiefs score quite a lot, but maybe hold Jacksonville down. So yeah, even a score, like in the mid 30s to the mid teens is okay for this.
Mm-hmm. One thing I just thought of.
That's what I would assume this game's going to go like.
Yeah. One thing I just thought of is the game's on Saturday. Apparently, Trevor Lawrence has never lost a game played on a Saturday, at least not since high school, because he won all of the games that he started for Clemson. I think he lost a couple of games, but those were bowl games or college football playoff games that were not played on Saturday.
Yeah,
and he won each time I think he played on Saturday in the regular season and the postseason in the NFL.
It should only be like once or twice, though. I mean, it wouldn't be.
He's only played a couple of games on Saturday that his team was not an overwhelming favorite, I'm sure.
Right.
It's like some high school team playing against Trevor Lawrence. Like, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Or some college against, Clemson had, they were overwhelming favorites in just about every game until they played Alabama, basically.
So is he working on a nickname like Mr. Saturday Afternoon or something? Is that something he's aiming for?
Yeah, but I don't think that'll matter. So I'm still sticking with the Chiefs. And you're the under. I think I like
the Chiefs play poorly. Yeah, the under is still possible.
Yeah, I think it's a 53 is pretty high. Like even if the Chiefs score a lot of points, like if they score 35 points, I could see something like 35-14 as a final score or something like that. So it's conceivable. I don't know how much. Again, I don't know how much Jacksonville has left. They've had a really kind of fight and claw to get into the playoffs, and then they really had to do that to win their first playoff game. And I'm not sure they have all of the energy left.
The average team score last week was 50.2 points, which would still be below the over/under line for this game.
Okay. And in the Chargers Jaguars game was 51 total, so it's almost right on that average.
Was 61, wasn't it? Was it 20?
61. I'm sorry,
31-30. Yeah. That would have been over. Yeah. So
that would have been over. Yeah. Yeah, I added 31 plus 30 and got 51.
Yeah,
61, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So we like the so I kind of like the under if I had to pick one of those. Which if you had to pick the -8.5 or +8.5, which one would you pick?
I think I'd still take the Chiefs -8.5. Yeah, I think I would. I think I would have taken your bet had I gone first in this competition. But
So all of our viewers out there should be picking Jacksonville +8.5 and
I
the
think so.
over.
In the over. Although we've done pretty well in the second half of
Actually,
the season.
the second half of the season, and even last week we did well too. So
We're 2-1 in our phase 2. Each of us are 2-1 in phase 2. I guess we didn't say that at the end of our recap, but that's
so
fine.
we won. Yeah, even if we were playing, like if we like, I think we miscalculated last week how much money we would have lost if we had counted the juice, the vig.
Yeah,
You know, because we would have only lost 110 on the games
the
we lost.
losses.
We would have won 100 on the games we won. So
and you get the 10 back. Yeah,
you get the 10 back. So we were down I was down 270 over the course of
right.
So $15 a week, and you were down
260 plus the 100 back, so 160, I guess.
160.
Yeah, that's
So
right. You are correct.
Yeah. I knew when I was talking about it, it was off.
Yeah,
I couldn't really picture why.
I think I led us down the wrong number on that when we were talking about that. Yes.
So yeah, we'd be +90 right now if we were playing with real money. But we'll in our thing we'll do +200, and maybe in the Super Bowl we'll use the real numbers, because I think we'll make some prop bets and things like that. So
yes.
Okay.
So in game 2, then Saturday night game is New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles.
Bruce Springsteen Bowl.
Is that official?
I think it should be, right?
Is he playing the halftime show?
He should. He's yeah. They're gonna meet in Atlantic City after the game. It's South Jersey versus North Jersey.
Yes.
Philly v. New York. Yeah, I think it's the
So
you're the first pick of this one.
Philly's favored by 7.5 points. Over under number is 48 for the game. I like Philly off the bye. I think Giants defense isn't that great, but the Phillies offense isn't necessarily that good. But I think they're going to be able to put some points on the Giants. I do like Philadelphia -7.5. So
Okay.
I'm taking that with my pick in this game. How about your pick? You taking the opposing bet, or are you going to go on the over under instead?
I was thinking the over under, but I don't know which side I would go with the under. I actually like the Giants +7.5.
Ooh, direct opposition bet.
Direct opposition, yeah. Because
one of us has to win this bet. The other one has to.
Part of it is because the way the Giants played the last week of the regular season against the Eagles, they had their kind of backups and third string quarterback in, and they only lost by 6 to the Eagles starters. I think the Eagles really have kind of limped into the postseason, even not counting Hurts's injury. Looking back, after the Eagles beat the Giants in week 14, they won 48-22 against the Giants. That was when they were really rolling. They haven't won a game by more than 6 points since. They beat the Bears by 5, lost by 6 to the Cowboys, lost by 10 to the Saints, beat the Giants by 6. So I think the Eagles will win that game, but I think it will be closer than 7.5. A half, I think maybe 7 even, but I like that half point there. So I don't know. I'm talking myself into it at least. I think the Giants are. I think Daniel Jones is probably at his most confident that he's been all season, and I think the team isn't terribly injured. And it's I think at Philadelphia, it's not, like I said, it's Springsteen Bowl. It's not that far from New York, so there's probably gonna be some Giants fans there.
Yeah,
it's Yeah, it's a divisional game. It's tough to beat the same team 3 times. At least that's the way the story goes.
Right.
Although I guess the 49ers didn't have a problem at all beating the Seahawks 3 times.
Yeah.
But the Bills had a really tough time beating a not so good Dolphins team 3 times. And in the other divisional matchup, the Bengals had trouble with the I'm talking to myself. I think your bet is logically very sound, but I'm going the other way.
If you were to pick the over/under, which way would you expect those to go? Do you think that's gonna be a high scoring game or a low scoring game?
I think it's gonna be.
Is this week gonna be the opposite of last week? Or are they gonna, because we had almost all overs were hit last week? You think almost like the over is gonna be hard to hit this week?
Yeah, I don't have a read on that. I like that number is really good to me. I like.
We do have more of the.
If I had to pick one, I'd pick the over, just because I think the Giants might score a lot, and that would force the Eagles to keep ahead of them. So I think the Eagles defense it's strong, but it's not what it. I think like the Eagles peaked about 6 to 7 weeks ago, I think.
Could be.
And on both sides of the ball. And I don't think doesn't mean necessarily that they can't get back to that level, but I would say if the Eagles win, they're going to score it'll
Fair
be
enough.
like 31 to 24, like last week. Maybe the reversed score or something like that.
So it seemed like in the last several weeks of the season, the penalty numbers had been dropping. So like maybe the referees were less flag happy the last few weeks, especially last week in the playoffs. There were like considerably less flags thrown.
Yeah,
in the regular season. These should be more disciplined teams at this point, and not as sloppy a play. But there were a lot of delay and false start penalties that were certain teams' bane, at least anyway.
Yeah, and it seemed like the Nick Bosa was Joey Bosa was really upset about a non-false start that was called. It seems like, and I've noticed this too a lot this year, it seems like they're allowing the tackles to move a little bit early a lot of the time. And I think that's to allow them to protect the quarterback a little better.
Yeah.
By getting an extra like 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, maybe
were called. Mostly were like ones they couldn't avoid not calling, like a false start, offsides, delay of game. Those are, just look at the clock, look at the guy moving. Those are just like the subjective ones. Holding, pass interference. Those didn't seem to be as.
Yeah, I don't think this week's game, the most recent week's games, were officiated very well. They just didn't seem to be throwing as many flags.
Yeah.
Letting certain plays go a little further without intervening.
Yeah, I'd rather have too few calls than too many calls if I had to pick one side.
And I know, in one of the games I was watching, I was getting really frustrated because the refs were like not stopping the play like from timeouts. Like they weren't getting in to like stop the actual play from happening. The entire play happened, and then they, say that there was a timeout called. I was like, but they're supposed to be like getting in, like rushing onto the field to like not allow the play to start. But they weren't doing that in that one game, and it was.
Is that Miami?
I think Buffalo? That was the Miami Buffalo game. Yeah, that was really frustrating to watch because, and I'm sure for the fans in attendance there, because they thought the plays were over, and then. It sounds like, oh no, it was a timeout that they were sort of like throwing in there at the end. But it was very strange seeing
a couple of times it seemed like the timeouts that were called, they were unnecessary because it was like the defense called it and the defense made a great play, and then they negated that because they thought, oh, we're not ready for it, we're going to call a timeout. I think
bizarre.
I think calling, like in general, I think calling a timeout is better when you're on offense, because if you don't have the right play called, you don't have the right this. But like sometimes, even if you have the right defense called, whatever play they call is going to beat it anyway. Because sometimes and sometimes you have the wrong defense, but randomly there's some miscue on the offense. I think
Mhm.
I don't know. I think defense it's much more dependent on what the offense does. I
Mhm.
think to me, so like I wouldn't unless it's like 12 people on the field,
Right. I was gonna say, as long as you have the right number of players on the field.
or like it's strategic. I think
Right.
defensive timeouts are wasted because you need those timeouts on offense and drive or something like that. So that's the most important thing to keep it. But anyway, so we like opposite sides in the Springsteen Bowl.
Directly opposing bets on this one, yeah.
Yes, you like the Eagles -7.5. I like the Giants +7. Moving on to Sunday's game.
Yep. Yes.
We have the first game is the AFC divisional. So it's both days it's AFC first and NFC,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. I guess is it because the NFC markets that are left are bigger than the AFC markets?
Could be.
Because we have Bay Area, Dallas, and then Eagles, Philadelphia and New York. Those are
Two of the bigger
cities,
markets, yeah.
and certainly bigger than Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Jacksonville are much smaller.
Mm-hmm. Although the Chiefs had some of the highest rated games of the last season. I think it was something like 9 of the Chiefs games were in the top 50 of the Nielsen ratings for all of last year.
Yeah, Mahomes is big watching. I think the Bills are as well.
It was the Bills Chiefs game was I think number 3 highest rated game from all of last season. And the Chiefs in the Chiefs Bengals game the week before was the next week was the 4th highest. I think Super Bowl was 1, I'm sure. Yeah. So I'm not sure what came in second though. So it was, but yeah, the Chiefs had like 2 of the top 4 games.
I bet I'm thinking it might have been the Rams Buccaneers.
Maybe.
In the NFC playoffs, because Brady I'm sure is a big draw. But yeah, it's a little different because I think markets mean a lot, but I don't think they mean maybe as much in football as they might like say baseball. Or basketball, because I think the NFL stars are more national and people want to see them.
And there are some teams that people dislike that will watch.
Yeah.
To hate watch, essentially. Yeah. I don't know if there's really any teams in this.
Cowboys.
Cowboys are probably the most hated team on the list that are of the remaining teams.
Yeah, I guess you could say, well, the Giants fans hate the Eagles fans, but that's just like, I don't think nationally there's hatred.
Mm-hmm.
The Buccaneers Cowboys was probably the 2 most disliked teams simply because of Brady and being the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have the Bengals and the Bills played in what used to be Rich Stadium in Orchard Park. I don't remember what the name of it is anymore.
Highmark Stadium.
Highmark. What is Highmark? Is that a medical thing?
No idea.
Is that a dairy? It is a healthcare.
Probably healthcare, yeah. It sounds like
it's a large not-for-profit health insurer. So I guess both the 2 of the possible AFC Championship sites are health insurance stadiums with GEHA Field and Highmark Stadium.
Yeah, what's the Eagles Stadium called now? Do you know?
Is it Lincoln Financial? Is that what it is?
Financial Field, that is it.
And Levi's, right? Is it still Levi's?
That's right, yeah. For San Francisco, yes. 3 of the 4.
Yeah, so I got 3 out of the 4 here. Yeah, so Cincinnati is a 5-point underdog against the Bills. And the over-under is 48, just like the Giants-Eagles over-under. Of these, I kind of like a couple of things, but I'm gonna stick with the spread because I think it's gonna be a close game. Either it's gonna be a close game or the Bengals are gonna win, I think. And I don't really know who's going to win, but if I had to pick one, I'd lean Cincinnati. And we're getting 5 points with kind of what I think is a coin flip game is pretty good. So I'm going to take the Bengals +5. I don't think. I think the Bengals have proven they can win on the road in the playoffs, and I think they might be a little upset that the game's in Buffalo. So they're going to be. I think they're going to be emotional, just like I think there's going to be a big emotion for Hamlin, but there's already been a couple of games of that. It's hard, it's. I know they're playing the Bengals again, but there's also maybe a little bit of apprehension there too, maybe. So I don't think the Bills will still be riding that as high on emotion as they were the last couple of weeks, and even the last couple of weeks they really barely pulled out a victory against Miami through having 2 return touchdowns, barely beat Skylar Thompson's Dolphins, who apparently couldn't work the play clock, half the time. So I think
Cincinnati they were slightly ahead in driving in the game that was halted. So I mean, Cincinnati already knows that they can play with them. It's not like they're outclassed or they're afraid of being outclassed.
Yeah, I don't think the Bengals are afraid of anybody.
Yeah,
I don't think the Bills are either, but I think especially I think the Bengals are pretty high on themselves. Maybe more than any other team in the AFC has more. I think more swagger.
I think that sort of like group mentality of thinking you're being like looked down on or overlooked, at least, and then maybe not the favorite of the league, maybe something that can bind a team together and play for trying to elevate your game to the next level for something a matchup like this anyway.
Do you remember what the spread was in the Bengals hosting?
We had bets on that game, did we not?
I bet on the Bengals.
You had Cincinnati +1 versus Buffalo. And I had the over in that game at 49.5.
Okay, so the numbers are so I guess we're moving it to the Bills. So you'd think they would get maybe 3 points for being at home. So you'd think +4 would be the number.
But now they're +5, so they've moved it maybe a 1 point Damar Hamlin.
Yeah.
Sentiment.
So I like the Bengals at those smaller number already. So I'm gonna say I think the over under is kind of similar. They've moved the over under down. I don't know exactly why.
Yeah. It's 48 right now.
So I like so I'm going to Bengals +5. What are you gonna do in that game?
I like the exact logic that you used. But I think I will take the over in the game though. I think they're both going to be scoring fairly significant amounts of points. And even if one team decides to run away with it, I think they're still going to trip that over number. So
I like the over too in that one. It seems like the only team the Bengals really have trouble scoring against is the Ravens. And I think the secondary of the Bills is pretty depleted, especially with Hamlin gone as well. So I think a high scoring game. So if I had to pick the other one, if I had to pick an over under, I'd definitely pick the over as well. So I think this is probably the game we agree on the most, even though I think we agreed on the Chiefs Jaguars, both of them, but I think we feel stronger about
we agree on them in principle, but not necessarily in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like the.
So are we going to agree on the last game then? The final game, the Sunday night game, Dallas at San Francisco. San Francisco favored by 4 points, -4 for San Francisco.
It's gone up.
46.5.
It's gone up.
It has gone to -4. We had a 3.5 earlier.
It was 3.5 when we were. Do you want to keep so? What that leaves a little bit of a conundrum because I think you were going to base your bet based on the 3.5. Does 4 change things?
It does not
for you.
It doesn't. I'm going to go. My Brock Purdy pick, which this has a dual purpose for today, at least anyway, as Iowa State is 30 seconds away from beating number 7 Texas in basketball right now.
Ooh.
Uh,
So Iowa State's going to beat the Cowboys, also from Texas.
yes. Now Iowa State's up 9 points with 17 seconds to go. But I think Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, wins this game by, I'm gonna say, more than the 4 points is what my guess would be. So touchdown, maybe more, maybe a lot more.
I was surprised that the spread for the Bills Bengals, which I see as two very evenly matched teams, was bigger than 49ers Cowboys, which I see not as two very evenly matched teams. I think this 49ers is significantly better than the Cowboys. And so I would have guessed the Bills Bengals would have been like Bills -2, Cincinnati +2 if I had made it, just because I would think even on a neutral field, maybe even Cincinnati's a little better, but home field advantage to the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
And for this game, I wouldn't have been surprised if it had been 49ers -6, something like that.
Yeah.
-7, even 6.5, maybe. So yeah, if I had gone one of the sides, I would have 3.5. I like 3.5 better than 4, but I probably still would have stuck it. The over under I think is very low as well, 46.5. I think both of these teams have high scoring offenses, or they can have high scoring offenses.
Capabilities, at least, anyway. Yeah.
I think both teams have defenses that are actually a little overrated. I think the 49ers give up a lot of points sometimes to teams. They gave up 44 to Kansas City. They gave up a lot of points to the Raiders towards the end of the season. Sometimes, even though they get a lot of sacks and things like that, I don't think their secondary is that good. And I think the 49ers have a very good offensive line, plus their tight ends, fullback. I think Juszczyk and Kittle are like 2 extra linemen at times. So I think of this as I think the one thing that I could say is maybe keeping it under, and I don't think this will happen, is if Purdy somehow comes back to earth and plays like a 7th round draft pick. But I like the over 46.5. I think it's going to be something like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 31 to 24, something like that. A lot of 31-24 games where we're predicting, or like 35. You
want it to be 31-28 though, or something like more like that.
Oh, to beat you, yeah,
just to keep that
35-17
spread closer, right?
Yeah, I still see it as a 49ers, not necessarily easy victory, but not a nail biter necessarily. So yeah, I like over 46.5.
And for the final game alert here, Iowa State did defeat Texas 78-67.
Yeah, I'm and it's a little talking about the over under. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to spoil Iowa State's big victory against Texas. Since we're going to have to think about college basketball more as we move on in the one trick power. Why is the over under of the Giants Eagles higher than the over under of the 49ers Cowboys? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
I think maybe because San Francisco does score. I think San Francisco and Dallas have both scored a lot recently, and I think they both have. If they score a lot. I think is what probably, at least from recent weeks, for both teams. And I think it probably makes the lines easier to set if it's hot. I understand why the 49ers Cowboys number is where it is compared to like the Chiefs Jaguars number. I'm not quite sure why the Giants Eagles is higher than
Yeah, it doesn't make as much sense to me. I think
Cowboys 49ers. Like I get why that number is, in the upper 40s for the Cowboys 49ers, but I don't quite understand why it's even higher 40s for the Giants Eagles.
And kind of like that, I'm surprised that the over under for the Bills Bengals is as low as it is too, because those are two high scoring teams.
Yeah.
And it looked like the game that they were first playing was going to be high scoring, since it was each team scored on their first drive, and the Bengals were driving to what looked like it was probably going to be at least another 3 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
So so I think that's I think the lines on this, I think both of the defenses are being overly emphasized in the line.
Yeah.
I think both of those teams have good offenses, and both of those defenses, even though they're very good, have also given up lots of points on occasion. So over 46.5 is what I like. You like -4
Mm-hmm.
with 49ers. Do we have any other notes on the divisional playoffs?
Looking back at our picks, there are a couple of there's one oddity, at least, that I noticed just from glancing at this. I have 3 different picks that could go to pushes, while you only have 1. So we could have this weird scenario where I go like 0, 1, and 3 or something, right? And
yeah, because I picked the spread 3 times and the over under 1 time, and my over under is a 46.5, and only one of my spread picks is I guess only one of the games is an even point spread, and that's the Bengals Bills. So
Buffalo,
the 3 of the over under picks are even numbers. Excuse me, always hold numbers, I should say, rather than even numbers, because there are
evens and odds.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know how math works.
Whole numbers. Yes.
Oh, we want to wrap it up then?
So, or should we ask one question about
I had a trivia question.
Yeah.
If this is, I forgot.
I had a trivia question, yeah.
We were talking about earlier, before we were on the broadcast, we were talking about that the Ravens seem to have a lot of former Chiefs on them.
Yes.
And we were talking about former Chiefs perhaps on other teams and things like that. So I got to looking at the draft history of some of the teams, and I was looking at the draft history of the Cincinnati Bengals, because the Chiefs signed a former Bengal, and John Ross. He was drafted 9th overall in the 2017 draft, 1 pick ahead of Patrick Mahomes. He's a burner. He has 4.22 40 speed that he got during the combine, which was the fastest ever combine score. It beat Chris Johnson's scored the Titans running back a few years back. Just more than a few years back now. We're getting old. So if you look at Football Reference, you can see the draft in a fairly easy list of the teams throughout the years, and you can also see they have the draft picks that each team has made, and if the name of the player is in bold, that means they're still an active player in the NFL. So my question to you is, who is the longest tenured player in the NFL who was drafted by the Bengals, and in what year do you think that person was drafted? So maybe we'll start with the year, and then we can maybe guess a player.
Oh man. Yeah,
I
most of
missed
the receivers are like very young.
Let's say non
my roster knowledge of the Bengals.
I'm gonna say not. We're saying non special teams players, because there is a punter who is sort of an active player. It seems like Kevin Huber. who punted the first 9 weeks of the season for the Bengals, but doesn't seem like he's been punting lately. So I don't know if he was let go, if he got hurt. I'm looking him up. And I guess he's on the IR. He's on the IR. So we're talking about active players currently on NFL rosters that are actively playing. And I'll give you a hint. He is playing in the AFC playoffs.
Okay.
Not for the Bengals.
Okay. Oh, so it's probably like a backup quarterback on somebody's roster that Cincinnati drafted.
I'll give you another hint. Well, his number might look like he is a quarterback, but his position is definitely not quarterback. His number is number 9 this season.
I don't know where you're going with this. I don't know.
He plays for the Chiefs.
Okay. Oh, Chiefs number 9 is that McKinnon?
Oh, sorry, number 8. He's number 8. Excuse me. I'm sorry, number 8. I think 9 is McKinnon. He's number 8.
8. So I knew McKinnon's number, but who was 8 on the Chiefs? Drafted by Cincinnati.
It's a position that traditionally would never have number 8, and only recently when they kind of revamped the number process.
So he's a wide receiver? No.
Defensive end.
Nope, no.
It's Carlos Dunlap.
Dunlap, really?
He was drafted in 2010 by the Bengals. He played most of his career for the Bengals.
His number is 8?
He's number 8. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever noticed that.
Yeah, he's number 8 for some reason. And he was drafted in the 2nd round out of Florida by Bengals. My related question for you is, correspondingly, who is the longest tenured active player who was drafted by the Chiefs in the NFL? Do you know? There were two possible.
Is he playing on the Bengals right now?
No, there are 2 possible answers.
Yeah.
Because there was in the same draft. Although one of those players only played 4 games this year, so he may have been injured. The other one,
Mr. Irrelevant.
Oh, I missed him. You're right. That is number 1. The non-special teamers I meant. So
you said no special teamer. You did say no special teamer.
Yeah. Ryan Suckup in 2009 is the.
Yeah.
Cooper was also drafted in, I think, in 09 or 08. So of non-special teamers, same position as Dunlap, also played in the AFC playoffs this year.
Drafted by the Chiefs, no longer on the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Played in the AFC playoffs.
AFC playoffs. No, I don't know.
One we mentioned already.
Okay.
Maybe before we had the air. It's Justin Houston was the answer. Okay. 3rd round draft pick in 2011. Rodney Hudson as well was drafted in 2011. It seems like he may have been hurt this year.
Oh, that's right. He plays for Baltimore. That's right. Oh, that's
Justin Houston plays for Baltimore. Yeah.
I said Cincinnati, but I was thinking Baltimore. So that's why I was gonna say Houston originally, and then I mixed up which team we were talking about.
Yeah, that's okay. It seems like Rodney Hudson's still around. He got hurt. He only played 4 games this year, so maybe he was hurt or something. But he was playing for Arizona now. So, but yeah, the Chiefs. So the Chiefs are still, some of those old draft picks are still kicking. The longest tenured Chief is Travis Kelce in 2013. He is the oldest player still on the Chiefs team, and actually the only player from the 2013 draft who's, I guess, technically active. Eric Fisher, I think, made a brief appearance or briefly signed with Miami, but hurt his knee or something.
But I think he may have gotten picked up late in the season too, and I'm not sure that he actually made it onto the roster though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was I guess that was our final trivia question of the evening. Do we have anything else to add before we sign off?
Have you changed your opinion on what the best coaching opening is? Is it still, do you think it's the same? Do you think it's still Arizona, or do you think it's somebody else now? Because I think I thought it was Houston. It doesn't sound like anything's been finalized anywhere. So
I think Houston is good. I think Indianapolis isn't bad.
Yeah.
Because it's the same division.
Their owner's a little crazy.
Their owner's a little bit crazy, but it's a team that has had some playoff success and some recently, fairly recently. I guess Houston technically has as well, but yeah, I think I think maybe it's Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Because they're not saddled
Yeah.
with a franchise quarterback that's not very good.
Right.
Now that the Rams seem to be out, seems like McVay's coming back. Is that right?
McVay says he's staying. Yes. Yeah. And they picked up Stafford's option too. So whether that's good or bad, we'll see.
Yeah. It seems like this year Indianapolis was crazy, but if they can find a quarterback and even if it's a rental, like they're not saddled with Kyler Murray, who's decent but crazy. It seems like a little bit like Russell Wilson, maybe at this point, and
maybe just not focused or something like that. It sounded like his contract was written in a way that they wanted to like keep him from playing video games, and
a little bit like the old Jamarcus Russell stories. You remember those? Did I tell you that?
I think so, yeah.
They would want Jamarcus Russell for the Raiders to take home film to study,
right,
and come back with any questions that he had on the games.
Right,
and at one point they decided, because it didn't seem like he was studying at all, so they gave him some blank tapes to see if he was actually looking at any of the games, and he was not.
He was not.
He did not have it. They were blank, and so yeah. I don't know if that's what Murray's problem is or not, but
well, something I remember seeing an article somewhere where I don't know, it was on Around the Horn. They talked about somebody had correlated his performance to the release of like Call of Duty updates. It was like, I guess, fairly dramatic drop off in games immediately after a Call of Duty release was made. Pretty funny.
That is funny. Yeah.
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 And yeah, I still think though, with the amount of draft capital that Houston has, that's still would be the best place to go. Regardless of what the team situation is, it should be all upside there, but it is not without drama on that.
Yeah.
Like in that franchise, anyway, I guess. It's probably the safest way to say it, right?
Yeah, I agree. On those asides, are we ready to call it a night? And we're looking forward, of course, to divisional round football playoffs. Maybe this is traditionally, I think, maybe one of the best weekends of football. Wildcard weekend is good, but you end up usually having some teams that aren't that good. And I think when we make it this far, all the teams in theory are pretty good. So the games should be well played, and the winner of these games reach the NFL's Final Four the week after next. So yeah, our season is rapidly winding down. We still have a Pro Bowl before the Super Bowl, the new fangled Pro Bowl. Maybe I don't think we can take bets on the Pro Bowl anymore, can we? Maybe look into that.
Skills competitions. Maybe we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see what prop bets are available for those games.
That'll be fun. But even more fun will be next weekend's action. And good luck to all of you rooting and possibly betting, even if it's fake betting like we do on the One Trick Power Hour. So until then, I and Dr. Michael Werman, he is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and or subscribe to our many delivery options that we have available, whether it be audio or AV options. And until then, bid you good day.